I just got 2 rather large chunks of clover pulled out of the lawn. We've had some rain this morning, so it's always easier to pull weeds after rain. Here, I'll show you. Like, I started just, if you kind of go around the outside of clover and you start pulling into the center, you'll eventually find the central spot of it where the taproot is. And then you can just pull it all out. Yeah. That's why I've got mud in all my fingernails now. I seriously cannot go out in the lawn without picking a weed. It always cracks me up when I've done videos in the past about weed killers, how to use them, differences, blah, 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 blah. And people are like in the comments, oh, quit using these poisons. You're going to harm the environment and you're going to harm your family and kids. Give me a freaking break. If you knew how little of that stuff I actually use and how much I actually use these little grippers right here, I hardly ever use any weed killers. Okay, I've got them. I make videos about them because some people want to use them so I can help them use them the right way. I mean, look at the extent of my products on my shelves in my garage. This is stuff when I had some Japanese beetles tearing up a rose bush at my old house, which I lived there almost 4 years ago. Some bug sprays to kill flies in the garage so I don't have a maggot infestation like I've had in the past. Here's a brand new hose-in sprayer of Spectracide. I bought that like 5 years ago. A concentrate. I've had that bottle for about 6 years still on the shelf. And then I've got some ready to spray, bug stop. Use that for ants and other bugs around the house. Some weed killer that I'll use, grass and weed killer, to kill the Bermuda that's creeping into the mulch. That's some like peppermint something or another that I got at one time to deter mice, I think it was, and it didn't really work. And then there's an empty bottle of weed and grass killer back there that I just kept. Who can relate to that? Keeping like empty bottles, like empty coffee cans, things that you look at, you go, I might be able to store something in there one day. So look, I pull just about any weed I can and use herbicides as little as possible. But it's always best to pull weeds after rain. We did get some rain. We got to go check the rain gauge here in a minute. We got some this morning. I can always kind of tell how hard it rained by this pop-up emitter. It's not mine, it's my neighbor's. And if that pop-up emitter is popped off, it rained pretty hard. Water coming from that gutter up there coming down, right there, pops it right off. If it rains really hard, I come out, put it back on, but my pipe's coming out from erosion. I did extend that pop-up emitter from on top of that hill down to here. Probably gonna end up having to come in here and maybe put another layer of sod on that to kind of build it up so it doesn't keep getting exposed. But a good rain this morning, more stuff firing up on the radar. We had a pretty wet end of April, first part of May, and then it kind of got dry for a little bit, so we really needed this rain, especially with all the new plants I've got in the ground in the front yard. You saw some of them already, but I got some more in. That is a sea green juniper there. It'll get about 4 feet tall, maybe 5-6 feet wide, fill up a lot of space. And then one you see down there, kind of bookending them. I was going to do some Globosa nanas, some cryptomeria, but changed my mind after doing a little more research and asking some questions. And then, of course, you've seen the Forever Goldies. And then I put some Blue Star junipers in. Those are going to really pop off the gold of those Forever Goldie arborvitaes when all that stuff gets nice and mature. So we're just slowly kind of putting our anchor points in of evergreens and the bigger stuff, and then we'll start coming in over time and adding more as we go. I cannot do it all at once. This stuff is expensive. I mean, expensive, and this is budget lawn, so I got to make sure I keep it real here. These are starting to put some size on them. The dark green spreaders, the Hixie U's, those are looking good. But what's really not looking that great right now is this front yard. It has been a well below normal May so far. After starting pretty mild towards the end of the winter and then warm towards the first part of spring, it has been really cool. Overnight lows down into the 40 some. with daytime highs mainly in the even upper 60s and 70s. Now, we did have some 80s this past week, so this changed a lot in just 1 week with the right growing temperatures. But if you're a Bermuda grass owner and you have been experiencing cool temperatures this spring, don't freak out if your grass is not greening up the way you want it to. It's got to be hot for Bermuda to really just get moving. And that's talking highs in the upper 80s, low 90s with overnight lows in the 60s and 70s. And we just hadn't had that yet. And usually by now in May we have, but I'm waiting patiently. It'll get there. It'll come. And we'll be complaining here before too long. All right, here we go. Let's see what we got in the rain gauge. Ah, look at that. A little over 1/2 inch. Are you dump it out and then when more rain comes, you kind of see what else has been added? Or should I leave that in there and then get a grand total after the, I mean, there's going to be some evaporation, but we have 4-5 days in a row forecasted of rain and severe weather. Hopefully the severe weather stays away. The rain will treat us right. But that was a nice rain this morning. We had, what is that, a little over 1/2 inch. Not really the hardest downpour. Some nice steady rains with some very brief heavy downpours, but overall, perfect. The backyard being on the south side of the house compared to the north side of the house, where it's always a little bit cooler and less sunshine, is looking a lot better. We've gotten 1 round of fertilizer down, 2000 Stay Green. And we're swimming a little bit hotter back here and more sunshine. It's looking good. A lot of seed heads. It's that time of year, so kind of gives some spots a little bit of a whitish look compared to other spots like this where it's a little more dark green and all filled in. But I struggle in through here because my dog, this is kind of her tracking spot right here. So she kind of beats this down in the winter time when it's not growing. And so I got to really push some of this to start filling it in. She likes to mosey around up here. So if you've got a dog, yeah, they're going to do things to your yard that you don't like. But I said this in a couple of videos ago, maybe the last one. If you don't like what they do to your yard, you got to decide what you like better, your yard or your dog. I like my dog. And yeah, there's a pea spot right there. If you're a cool season grass owner, the cool season folks are going to hate the pea spots a lot more than warm season because I don't need to do anything to this. See how it's already starting to fill itself in? That Bermuda's going to spread. Fill it in. I don't need a plugger. I don't need to worry about that. Yeah, sure, it might be a little eyesore for a little bit of time, but it'll fix itself. No reason to freak out. But those are a sign, when you start seeing spots like that in Bermuda grass, those are a sign that we're pretty well fertilized with nitrogen. If I wasn't seeing those and I was seeing some really faded, really light green Bermuda, and then I was seeing patches of really dark green spots, that's the opposite of that. That would be I'm not fertilized enough with nitrogen, so the dog's pee and the urea in it would be making those really dark green patches standing out over the rest of it. That's a sign you need to fertilize. This is a sign, probably pretty good. Put some nitrogen down, add the pea to it, and it burns a little bit, but that's okay. We're looking good back here. Oh boy, we'll come back for that one, but we'll get that one right there. Hey, if you're new to the videos and here on Budget Lawns, a lot of you are my faithful friends and followers for a long time now. You kind of know how we do things, especially how we're doing things right now. Don't come in the comment section and whine and complain. It's not going to do you any good. I love the comments. I got one the other day. This video could have been 2 minutes long. Yeah, it could have been. Could have been 20 minutes long. Could have been 40. It amazes me how people whine and complain about the length of a video when YouTube gives you that little timestamp there that tells you before you even click on the video how long the video is. So I've started telling people when they complain about the length of the video or you talk too much, blah, 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 get to the point. You know how many times I've heard blah, 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 get to the point? I hear it all the time. And I'm like, you know what? Here's a thought. How about you get better at searching for the video you want? It's not my fault you decided to click on this one and it didn't meet your expectations to a T. You're free to click off and go find one that works for you. Here we go. There's a weed. There's a weed. All right, into that. But what we do on these, it's more like a walk and talk lawn care podcast. It's not going to be a very formal, hey, here's what this video is going to be about, and these are your tips with fancy schmancy, smooth, buttery smooth B-roll and graphics. We just mosey around the lawn and talk about what we see. And what I see is a lot of good things going on here lately. In the last video, or 2 videos ago, I think I might have mentioned that my wife went crystal digging with the kids. And they got these crystals and cleaned them all up and brought them home. Arkansas is known for some of its crystal mines. And we ended up getting these put out here to kind of create this like little crystal flow. Or at least in my eyes it does. I don't know if it does in yours. But I think it looks awesome. All this is really starting to fill out. And everything I do, like when I create this kind of stuff, I don't create it for what it's going to look like on YouTube or to someone else. I really try to create it for what it's going to look like from inside the house. Because we're going to see it the most, right? Especially in the backyard. So I want it to look a certain way from when I'm looking out the windows inside. Because I'm not always going to just be standing right here on top of it. I'm going to be inside. So it's really taken shape the way I kind of envisioned it in my head. The orange rocket barberry is really taking off. The cat's meow catmint going bananas. Artemisias, I think we may have to make some adjustments next year. I'm down to 6. I think they got too hot in the summer, too cold in the winter. That one I think is finally a goner. So we may have to see what these do through the rest of this season and then replace those. I think they're too exposed up here. But it's all really looking good, especially this blue rug juniper. I mean, going bananas. That is one of the upsides to having a more cool, wet, not necessarily wet, but not hot and dry season so far. All these junipers really prefer cooler temperatures, especially in the fall. It hadn't rained enough to where it's caused any problems with root rot. So they're just, I mean, freaking blowing up. Blowing up. And those along the back, I've been steering you wrong for a while now because unfortunately I was kind of steered wrong. Those were labeled wrong at the nursery where I got them. I thought I was planting 7 Andorra compacta junipers. In fact, they are sea green junipers, just like what we put in the front. But I'm actually very happy. I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise over the long run because Andorras were only going to get about 18 inches tall. These are going to get 4 feet tall. But I can always shape them and prune them to the height I want. So if I want them to be taller, I can go taller. If I want them to be shorter, I can keep them shorter. Whereas the Andorra, once they got full height, full grown, that's it. They're done. I can't make them go any taller. So at least I have a little more freedom and play with these to make it look the way I want. And eventually I may come in, I hadn't decided yet. This is supposed to, the blue rug's supposed to fill this whole hillside right there. But I may come in and put something along that front edge there, along the rocks. Changed out all those rocks, you already saw that. I think that looks good. But my biggest issue so far this spring, and it's a good thing to have, but it can be a frustrating thing to have, is we have had a ton of birds this year. Far more birds than I can even imagine. And I think one is messing with me a lot like Hugo did. Hugo was an armadillo that I fought for 2 falls. Finally caught him this past fall, rehomed him. He doesn't give me any more problems. But I think I've got some brown thrasher birds that are living in this brush behind the house. and they are going bananas in the mulch. I'm always having to come out here and kind of tidy it up. It's not too bad right now, but I think he's living up there and he's toying with me every day. Blackberries are coming in. I think they're blackberries. There's some. There's quite a few over here that started to pop up that were a little better looking, but we're still ahead of the season on that. Honeysuckles are going bananas. But those brown thrasher birds, I'm not surprised, or any of the birds in general, that they are destroying. Hold on. They are destroying the mulch. I shouldn't say destroying, they're just kind of roughing it up. How can you can't really destroy mulch. Because when I was digging these plants up front, I'll go show you. When I was digging these and moving mulch back to get a hole, when I would move that mulch back, there were grubs galore. And I'm not talking like a few, I'm talking a lot. I've never had a grub problem in the grass. They like to eat the roots of grass, so that could be a problem. But from the research I've found, and you can't see it here, but they've turned this mulch over. You could see the holes, but I wish the mulch wasn't wet because of the rain, because the old stuff really had a gray look to it. And then where they've been back there turning all that mulch over looked real nice and brown again. But I know they're in there feasting on grubs, because putting all these plants in, there were grubs everywhere. And from my understanding, even though they like to eat the roots of grass, really heavy, thick, dark mulch is a good habitat for grubs. And when I put this mulch in, I intentionally 2 years ago put it really deep so that some could kind of start breaking down and becoming organic matter before I planted some of the plants. So that was nice, but it also became a nice home for a bunch of grubs to live in with this really thick, dark environment. So they've been feasting on the grubs like crazy. But you know, when it comes to birds, I'm a huge fan of having birds around, because they can be natural pest control for you, and they can take care of grubs, they can take care of armyworms, they can take care of bagworms. These junipers are notorious for being decimated by bagworms. So having a bunch of birds around, not necessarily a bad thing. Yeah, they might frustrate you and make you clean up some mulch from time to time, but they're helping you at the same time. All right, my friends, that's it for this one. Budget lawns. That's all I got. Hey, leave your feedback in the comment section below. Appreciate you being here, watching. As always, your support does mean a lot to me. If I didn't have it, it wouldn't be worth making these videos. So until next time, take care.